Just yesterday we thought it was a fantasy, what today is an integral part of our lives. The best example is cell phones. Back in the early 90s we could only dream of such things, but only 2 decades have passed and not having a cell phone has become a kind of bad taste. Progress can be traced everywhere. In the space industry, defense industry and medicine. That's why my today's top is devoted to health improving methods of the past, which now can only cause laughter in the reader from the 21st century. Hemorrhoids, a disease quite painful and intimate. But now, if it is not completely cured 1 or 2 times, at least it does not interfere with life. There are a lot of drugs to keep it in remission. Well, in extreme cases, the problem can be solved radically and for a long time, if not forever, surgically. But what was to do people living in the Middle Ages, when the very word combination of surgical intervention could be sent to the stake as an accomplice of Satan? The first thing that advised Esculapists of the Catholic world was to pray with all sincerity to the Irish martyr Saint Fiacre, who in the view of theologians and doctors of the past specialized in this very disease. But if prayers did not help, and the unpleasant disease exhausted not only the soul, but also the body, such a patient was often applied to a very painful recovery procedure. It consisted in the fact that a poker was heated red hot in a nearby furnace, the pants of the unfortunate patient were taken off, and then with shouts of joy the hard iron and human flesh were touched. It is not known how effective the measure was and how many patients subsequently died of painful shock and other complications after the operation. But you can't take words out of a song. And in the Middle Ages there were only 2 methods, the poker or prayer. Later, during the Renaissance, more gentle procedures were developed, like soaking in a hot bath for hours. Not effective, but still better than the poker. Almost up to the 6th century, in all times of existence of human civilization, people tried to find a practical use for urine. It even acted as the main antiseptic for disinfecting wounds and ulcers. But the functionality of its own urea was not limited to this. In the Middle Ages, it was generally believed that there is no home remedy better than their own urine. And if the golden liquid is also merged into one tincture with some ale, it is a must-have for all known ailments. All this has very accurate historical evidence. For example, in the recommendations to dentists of the Roman Empire clearly prescribed method of using urine as the best teeth whiter. By the way, it helped, as snow-white togas of Roman emperors kept white and fresh thanks to urine collected in public toilets. In turn, the court surgeon of Henry VIII was no less eager to prescribe to everyone and everything to wash household and battle wounds with his own urine. That is why, when the bubonic plague spread across Europe, all painful ulcers arising on the body were necessarily treated with this natural remedy. Of course, these misconceptions can be laughed at for a long time, but to this day, in modern society, there is a huge number of witnesses of the healing power of urine who are engaged in urine therapy in a world where the whole sky is covered with satellites and the internet has penetrated literally into every home. If you think that medical misconceptions are something that is present in the history of mankind exclusively in the Middle Ages or Renaissance, you are very wrong. In the so-called Jazz Age, experienced marketers used misconceptions to their advantage in order to sell this or that product. That is why in the early 20s of the last century, one famous soap factory, Lamar, suddenly announced to the world that their products can wash away not only dirt, but also subcutaneous fat. Marketers of the firm convinced gullible women that if you rub the soap problem areas, then the excess fat deposits literally will go into the drain of a regular bathtub. Moreover, quite visual posters were drawn, which showed a step-by-step, gradual process of disappearance of the second chin or slimming of the abdomen. The effect of the advertising campaign was so great that many other soap manufacturers began to release their healing products for rapid weight loss. Of course, none of the products worked as the marketers claimed. And in today's world, any firm that would use outright lies in their advertising campaigns would have been immediately subject to multi-million-dollar lawsuits and fines. But at the dawn of the last century, such a sales strategy worked well. Therefore, many years later, women sincerely believed in the miraculous power of slimming soap. Enemas and yogurt enemas, in particular, are a separate page in the history of medical misconceptions of the past. For example, at the turn of the 6th and XX centuries, you could visit special sanatoriums to improve your health and undergo a whole health-improving cycle of diet, hydrotherapy, electric shock, and yogurt enemas. According to the ideas of Esculapists of that time, yogurt, having got into the body through the anus, best of all promoted the development of beneficial microflora in the intestines. In principle, doctors of the late 6th century at least understood what they were doing and saying, although they developed a very wrong method of introducing the main product to dilute the beneficial microflora. But here are the doctors of the Middle Ages were not shy, all in terms the use of enemas, and prescribed the most different compositions and components at every opportunity. For example, the most popular mixture used at that time necessarily included boar's bile, which in the minds of doctors had an exceptional healing effect. Further ingredients vary: turpentine, tobacco, and various herbs including narcotic herbs. Even advanced court doctors did not bend enemas. Therefore, it is known that the long-suffering King Louis XI of France had more than 2,000 enemas during his life, which made him suffer from intestinal disorders. I want to conclude my top misconception, which was quite recently by the standards of the general history of mankind, in the 50s of the last century. So, in this period, weight loss salons became especially popular. Moreover, if you understand this word as a standard gym with a little outdated iron, you are very wrong. There were indeed gyms in the salons, but which nowadays can be imagined only from the point of view of their use to satisfy numerous fetishes. Simulators roared with motors, processed full bodies with rubber bands, slapped on problem areas, stretched unhappy women, or even electrocuted them, sparing no one. The phenomenon was widespread in the United States, from which slimming salons were almost on every corner. But just as quickly as these salons appeared, they disappeared, because the vast majority of devices simply did not work, which was quickly enough figured out by gullible housewives, the main visitors to slimming factories. Moreover, some of the simulators caused outright harm, which consisted in sprains, abrasions, bruises, and other injuries from interaction with the moving parts of the mechanism. If after watching this video you have an imaginary sense of superiority, I urge you to come down from heaven to earth. My argument will be very simple. If in the past people believed in the power of newfangled exercise machines, yogurt enemas, and urine, then, firstly, and now there are admirers of all of the above, and secondly, marketers and fraudsters always invent something new and hyper-useful to increase sales and make millions. For example, a whole market of dietary supplements and a full-fledged sports nutrition industry. So, in global terms, the average person has not gone far from using a red-hot poker, even though he lives in the era of cell phones, satellites, and global internet.